Section 7.5 is adding and subtracting polynomials. To add and subtract polynomials, the first thing you have to do is you have to clear your parentheses. The first parentheses, there is nothing in front of the parentheses, which is understood to be a positive 1. When you have a positive 1, you just drop the parentheses and write it as is. The second parentheses, there's a positive 1, so you just drop the parentheses and write it as is. You have to do this step. A lot of kids try to combine like terms inside the parentheses, and you cannot do that. Now, after you have written the polynomial without the parentheses, you want to combine like terms, and you want to answer in descending order. So 2x squared and a negative 4x squared, those are like terms, and that's the highest exponent. So you want to combine by adding or subtracting their coefficients. Positive 2 and a negative 4 is a negative 2x squared. Now the next term is 5x and a positive 6x, which is 11x. And negative 7 and a positive 3 is a negative 4. That is your answer. And it is in descending order. Example B, again, we have to clear our parentheses, and in order to clear our parentheses, we just rewrite the polynomial without the parentheses as long as there's a positive 1 in front. Combine like terms. 1y to the third plus 2y to the third is 3y to the third. Remember, you only add the coefficients. You do not add the exponents. My next one is 4y squared. There is no other y squared to combine it with, so I just bring it down. Now I'm going to combine 3y and a negative 4y is a negative 1y, or a negative y is the same thing. Negative 5 and a positive 8 is a plus 3. Example 2 is finding the difference. Again, anytime you add or subtract polynomials, you have to clear the parentheses. The very first parentheses, there is nothing in front of it, so it's understood to be a positive 1. So we just write the parentheses. The second parentheses is a negative in front, so we have to distribute the negative. And when we distribute the negative, that means multiply that negative times each term in the parentheses. The shortcut is it changes the sign. So that's negative 4x plus 5 minus 3x squared. Combine like terms, positive 2x squared and a negative 3x squared is a negative x squared. Negative 2x and a negative 4x is a negative 6x. And then 3 plus 5 is 8. Example B, drop the parentheses. Again, we have a negative in front of the second parentheses, so we have to change the sign of each term. Don't forget to do that. Combine like terms. I don't have anything to combine the 4p to the third with, so I'm going to bring it down. Now I'm just going to put a line through it to make sure to let myself know that I've already put it down. And the negative 3p to the second. So my eyes can focus on what I have not added. 7p plus 9p is 16p. Negative 8 and a negative 2 is a negative 10. Again, we're going to add or subtracting. The very first parentheses, there is nothing in there. I'm sorry, not nothing. There is a positive 1 in front. Now the second parentheses, there's a negative, so again, it changes the sign. So it changes this negative 2x squared to a positive 2x cubed. It changed this positive x squared to a negative x squared, and changed the negative 2 to a positive 2. Combine like terms. 4x cubed plus 2x cubed is 6x cubed. Negative 3x squared and a negative 1x squared is a negative 4x squared. Bring down the plus 6x. We don't have anything to combine that with. What's left over? Negative 4 plus 2 is a negative 2. Example D, there is nothing in front of that parentheses. Again, it's understood to be a positive 1. The second parentheses, a negative, we distribute the negative, so that's negative 7 plus y to the third minus 12y. Combine like terms. Again, I'm going to put a line through so I know that I've already used them. 8y and a negative 12y is a negative 4y. Negative 10 and a negative 7 is a negative 17. Example 3. Electronics store is starting to track sales of cell phone and digital cameras. The equations below represent the number of cell phones P and the number of digital cameras C sold in M months. Write an equation for the monthly sales T of phones and cameras. So in other words, the total means we add. So we have to add the phones, which is 7M plus 137, plus the cameras, which is 4M plus 78. Again, we would clear our parentheses. And we would get 11M plus 215. Use the equation to predict the number of cell phones and digital cameras in 10 months. So 10 stands for M. So we would plug that in. So our total sales is 325. Now there is one other thing I want to talk about with adding and subtracting polynomials, but I am going to have to wait until the end of this lesson, and then I will talk to you about it. So continue on with this lesson. Section 7.6, multiplying a polynomial by a monomial. Basically, when we have a monomial times a polynomial, we have to do the distributive property. We've got to multiply 3x squared times 7x squared. Remember, you multiply the numbers together and you multiply the variables together. When you multiply the variables, you add the coefficients. So that's negative 21x to the fourth. Then we're going to multiply 3x squared times a negative 1x. Negative times a negative is a positive 3. Again, when you multiply variables, you add the exponent, so that's x to the third. And then negative 3x squared times a positive 4, that's a negative 12x to the second. Example 5b, we are going to again do the distributive property. Negative 20a to the fourth plus 10a to the third, a negative 35a to the second. Notice that they all have different exponents, so they are not like terms. So after we multiply, we cannot combine any like terms because they have different exponents. Example C, we're going to multiply and get negative 18d to the 7th plus 12d to the 6th plus 6d to the 4th minus 54d to the 3rd. Example 2, we have two sets of parentheses that we need to get rid of. So we're going to have to do the distributive property in the very first, multiplying 2p times each term in the parentheses, and we get negative 8p to the third. 2p times 5p is a positive 10p squared. Now in the second parentheses, we're not multiplying by 5, we're multiplying by a negative 5. Don't forget the negative. So that's negative 10 p to the second. And negative 5 times 20 is a negative 100. Now we want to see if we have any like terms, which we do. The negative 8p to the third is not common with anything, so we just bring that down. 10p squared and a negative 10p squared goes away. It turns into 0, but we don't write 0p to the squared. We just leave it alone. Goes away. Example 2b, we're going to do the distributive property. 15x squared plus 6x minus 12. And again, we have to do the distributive property, multiply negative x times everything. So that's negative 7x cubed minus 2x squared plus 3x. I don't have anything to combine the negative 7x cubed with. Bring it down. 15x squared and a negative 2x squared is a positive 13x squared. 6x and 3x is 9x. And negative 12 I'll just bring down. Example C. Now I'm going to combine first do the distributive property. So that's 150. Now, it's 10 y to the third x to the fifth. It really, when you have two variables together, you should multiply them and put them alphabetically. So technically, the x to the fifth should come first. And then I'm going to multiply, that wouldn't be x to the fifth. It would be x to the sixth. I don't have anything to multiply the y to the third with. That is all one term because the y to the third x to the fifth is one term. So I had to multiply the x, the 15, and the x with that term. Now I'm going to multiply 15x times the second term. So I get positive 15 times 5 is 75. Now, I've got to multiply. I don't have anything to multiply the y squared with, but x times x is x squared, y squared. Notice again that I am always going to put it alphabetically. Even though it was given to me with the y first, I am going to rewrite it with the x first. Now I have to multiply the negative 2y times each term, and that's a negative 2x squared y squared. And then multiply negative 2y times the second term. That's a negative 8y to the third. Now, if you will notice that these terms have an x and a y, you can only combine with each term that has the exact same variable and the exact same exponent. I don't have anything to combine the 150x to the 6y to the third with, so I'll bring it down. Okay, so I'm going to bring down the 150x to the 6, y to the third. Now notice the 75x squared y squared and the negative 2x squared y squared. They have both variables, and both variables have the exact same exponent. So I combine and I get a positive 73x squared y squared. Again, you only add the coefficients. And then bring the negative 8y to the third. We are going to stop. I'm not going to teach example 5. That's going to be on the next lesson. And that concludes section 7.5 and part of 7.6.